Marty's not here.
Hey, hey, everybody, welcome. We are so glad you're able to make it today. We want to welcome you to Sonny Hersh's Election Special 2006. I am your co-host, Avy Meyers, and we are here with, my name in the print. Wow, is that exciting? We're actually here live at Chicago Access right now. My co-host is Jim Nally, famous from James P. Nally, LLC. And we want to thank James P. Nally, LLC, for giving you permission today to be our live guest. We're going to have all sorts of interesting people calling in. The tentative schedule right now is we will have President Terry O'Brien of the Water Reclamation District calling in, Tom Dart, candidate for sheriff, calling in, Larry Suffredin, Commissioner of Cook County. Now, the real attraction, by the way, is we are scheduled to have both county board presidential candidates, both Tony Pera, the Republican, and Todd Stroger, the Democrat, calling in today. We also have Jesse White, the Secretary of State, scheduled to call in, and we might have another surprise or two. The reason you saw Marty's picture in the beginning is we were hoping that, well, if you've seen my regular show, we always start with Marty, so we had to start with Marty. What can I tell you? Anyway, Jim, how you doing today?
I'm
Pleasure
doing well.
to see you.
It's great to be here, Avy. I very much enjoy the live show. We often appear on tape, and all our mistakes can be edited out. So here we're going to have to go live and live with whatever we put on the air.
That's true. If we say something awful, but you know they can be edited out, but I never do. Anybody who's watched the show kind of knows it's like the goose get to stay there. So tell us, we've got a bunch. Now, Jim, for those of you who don't know, is but considered by many to be the top election lawyer in the state of Illinois. And we have some definite things happening this year that are different. Now, first of all, registration. Can you still, if you're not registered to vote, can you still register?
Yes, and it's a big change. There have been a lot of changes made here in Illinois pursuant to the Help America Vote Act, which is a federal act. And in keeping with the spirit of that, whereas normally there'd be an absolute bar on voter registration for 30 days prior to the election, that's not the case anymore, and you can register right up to a couple weeks ahead of time. There are some restrictions then on how you cast a vote and where you cast a vote, but it's a big change in terms. So anybody who's watching here today, you're not too late. And
the place, for instance, you would go to register at places like City Hall. Can you register? Like, there's early voting stations this year, like at places like Warren Park and all that in my neighborhood. Are these places you can register also?
Well, early voting and registration are two different animals. So you would have to check with the Chicago Board of Elections in the city or the Cook County Clerk in suburban Cook about the registration issue. The early voting, though, both of them, and we'll talk a little later in the show about the various sites where you can go to actually cast a ballot right now as we're speaking.
That sounds good. Now, for those of you who don't know, in my spare time I publish this thing called Jewish Chicago. And this is actually the spring issue, so let me cover up Eisendrath because he ain't going to be on the cover this time. Terry O'Brien probably, well, it's Judy Topinka. See, I'm doing left-to-right TV. Judy Topinka might be together with Blagojevich, we'll see. And Terry O'Brien also might be. But anyway, this is sort of what it looks like. You can see the Jewish Chicago banner. It's free. It's available everywhere. So, look for it. And, I'm going to start writing this as soon as we finish the show today. And, I'm going to be putting this out to press by Wednesday. So if you want anything in there, give me a call now. It is now a pleasure and privilege to give you our first call-in guest, who's the president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, somebody who, if you watch the Northtown News Magazine, Thursdays 7:30 p.m., Friday 2:30 p.m. on Channel 19, you will see regularly Terry O'Brien. Terry, how are you today?
Good morning, Avy. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Terry.
Pleasure to be on the show this morning. We're running unopposed, but it seems like everybody's looking past the November 7th election and onto the February elections. But I'm happy that you guys are having the show today so that you are letting the people know that there is election on November 7th, and a very important one.
Very important one. And as a matter of fact, in my opinion, and I've said this on the regular show, one of the most important things you can do is when you get down to Water Reclamation District, whether there's opposition or not, there's three different people running for 3 slots, but the one person that I've definitely made up my mind that I'm putting a check next to is for Terry O'Brien, or Terrence J. O'Brien on the ballot. And that, to me, is the one thing I've definitely decided along the water reclamation lines. And I'd also like to let our viewers know that this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in Chicago, Channel 19, 8 o'clock in Evanston, Channel 6, and Monday in 35 north and northwest suburbs, they can see President Terry O'Brien, you know, on our show. So, actually, it's a week from, I'm sorry, the Thursday before the election you're going to be on the show. So,
appreciate it, Avy.
First of all, it's my pleasure. Let's talk about some of your accomplishments. This is 18 years so far?
This is 18 years. I'll be starting my 4th term. Of those 18 years, the last 10 years I've served as the president of this fine organization, thanks to the support and confidence of my colleagues on the board. As you're well aware of, we just finished the tunnel portion of our tunnel and reservoir plan this year, back in March. All 109 miles of tunnel are completed and operational. Another great thing that happened this year was the third of 3 bond rating agencies finally gave us a AAA bond rating, Standard & Poor's. I think we're only the 4th in the United States to ever have received that type of a bond rating from that particular agency. So we're proud of that.
And that is the highest rating that an agency can possibly have.
That is correct. When you're borrowing funds to make capital improvements to your facilities, normally you have to go out and sell the bonds, and part of the ratings are assessed to those bonds. And because we have a higher rating than a lower rating, then it means we can borrow money at a cheaper rate.
And I think it's also important to note that you are the only county agency within Cook County that lowered your tax rate this year.
Yes, we reduced our property tax levy for 2006 by 1%. I don't think there's another governmental agency within the county nor within the state that can say that. And that's something we're very proud of. We're very fiscally responsible in how we spend the taxpayers' dollars throughout this county.
Terry, I'd just like to ask you, with your election assured, can you tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to in your new term coming up?
Well, Jim, my election is assured because of your fine expertise, and I thank you publicly for that, as do my 2 running mates, Deborah Shore and Patricia Horton. But coming up in my new term, what we'll be focusing on most is one, completing the reservoir portion of this tunnel and reservoir plan, but the other more important responsibility that we just received in November of 2004 by the General Assembly in Springfield is stormwater management. And we have set the county up into 6 watersheds, which local officials in those watershed areas, as well as environmental groups, are bringing ideas and different ways of dealing with stormwater problems in those particular regions. One of the things that we've just did this past Thursday is we've gone out with 3 contracts out of the 6 watersheds to start doing the planning for those particular watersheds. And the reason is that we're doing that is because most of the problems dealing with stormwater and flood management are regional and not just on a local level.
That's. I think it's important to point out too that it's 108 miles of tunnel, 109 miles of tunnel approximately total that you constructed.
That's correct, Avy. 109 miles of tunnel. We just celebrated back in May the completion of those 109 miles of tunnel, and one of the engineers on staff brought down an article when this was first conceived back in 1976, and I was reading the article, and they said in 10 years this thing would be completed. However, we're 30 years out, and we finally completed it. But not any due failure to this agency. It's just that, we're waiting for federal funding on this particular project.
Which a certain senator I do know kind of stopped for a decade or more.
Well, he didn't really like it, but when one of my previous colleagues on the board had a couple busloads of seniors go to Washington to explain to them that their basement's flooded, I guess he mentioned that he lost the Persian rug in the flooding, so and they lost all their belongings, so it didn't sit very well. But we're moving along, and if we continue, we've been fortunate with the funding now with the reservoir portion. So if we continue on the same path that we're on the last couple of years, we'll be on time with the completion of the reservoirs.
Well, Terry, I certainly noted the last several weeks here have been exceptionally rainy. And I've certainly noted that in the past, those would be conditions where myself and other homeowners would be looking down at their basements anxiously looking for that water to start coming up. I didn't have any problems, and virtually everybody I spoke to didn't. So it seems like the system already, to the point it has been completed, is working pretty well.
Yeah, the system is working well. We normally would have maybe 5 to 10 reversals to the lake on an annual basis before the first leg of the tunnel went online in 1985. And it's been 4 years since we've gone to the lake. And since that first leg went online in 1985, we've only had 14 in total reversals where we had to go to the lake. This early October, the first week of October, we were 2 inches away from having to divert water to the lake up near Wilmette at our sluice gates up there. So the system is working. We are capturing that combined sewer overflow and polluted water, as well as helping a lot of the basements in the region presently.
Yeah, we did have a much wetter year this year than the previous year.
Yeah, last year was a very dry weather summer. This year it's been unseasonably wet.
So we are way above average this year?
We're close to being, well, we are above, but close to being average. But just that for some reason or other last summer was just, we had hardly any rain at all.
It was extremely dry, and believe me, my vegetables and grass could tell you.
Yeah, well, I'm not complaining though that it was dry.
No, you don't have to worry about the overflow that way. One thing I do want to point out, by the way, when you thanked Jim Nally before for making sure that you're running on a post, for those who don't know, Jim Nally is the person that as an election lawyer, he found problems with the way the Republicans had filed their nominating petitions. Nobody ran in the primary, so they appointed people, and they did it outside the bounds of the law, and Jim's the one that caught it. And if they didn't know enough, frankly, to file legally to get their name on the ballot, I have no objection with them being kicked off.
Well, you know, my feeling is, and, you know, I think if you're going to run, you should go through the process of running through a primary where you have to go out and get signatures to get on the ballot. And, I mean, basically, you know, what was trying to be done, and is done in a lot of races, but for whatever reason that couldn't be done in our race, was that the party leaders would then appoint somebody to fill in on a vacancy on a ballot for the general election. So,
well, I think the whole idea with the primary is that you put yourself in front of the voters, you show them your record, you show them your ideas, and the people then have an opportunity to choose those that they think are best. And certainly you and your running mates on the Democratic side went through that crucible and you know, and ran and went out and visited people and talked about your ideas and got your message out. And it's a little bit different when then a party chooses not to have anybody running and then tries to you know, meet and appoint people and then not follow the proper rules in doing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go through, as you mentioned, Jim. I mean, we've got questionnaires we've got to fill out for various organizations and newspapers. We have to go through endorsement sessions with the same organizations and newspapers. So there's a lot of scrutiny that goes into your candidacy when you're running, and just to be able to throw your name on the ballot, I don't know. I don't think it's proper and right, but that's my opinion.
I won't disagree with you one bit. I also want to thank you very much because for those who don't know that you've got an airplane to catch in a couple hours.
Yeah, I'm headed to Dallas. We have the International Water Environment Federation Conference this week. It started yesterday, and it runs till Wednesday of this week. So we're heading out to O'Hara to catch a plane to see if we can learn some new, bring up some new knowledge and bring it home with us.
No, that'll be good. I know you work very hard at that, and I know also when you talk about funding from Washington, you spend an awful lot of time in Washington, you know, lobbying with our congressional delegations to try to get as much help as possible for us back home.
That's correct, Avy. The congressional delegation has been great with regards to supporting this particular project, from the mayor to the governor to the lieutenant governor to our 2 U.S. senators to the 11 congressmen and congresswomen who districts are impacted by this project. They've been fantastic.
What is your ballot number?
My ballot number is 55.
So whether it's a punch or fill in the circle or
I think they call it
touch
mark
screen
now.
or we mark 55 early and often. No, actually once is fine. Actually, I wish I could do it 3 or 4 times. It doesn't work like that. You can't weight your ballot like you could in the old state rep races.
Well, you can do it 3 times, Avy. Remember Deborah Shore and Patricia Horton and myself.
Oh, those are your running mates. That's true. Okay, well, I want to thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Avy.
Of the Water Reclamation District, Terry O'Brien, and I personally urge you, I think Jim will too, to vote for Terry. Come Tuesday, November 7th.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck in Dallas. So anyway, we're off to a rearing start. It's always a pleasure to have President O'Brien on. He's one of the class guys in politics, Jim.
Well, and you know, one thing you know when you see Terry out there, wherever he goes in the county, people are very receptive to him. I've never heard, and in politics, you know, you're going to hear all sorts of negative things about people. In a bipartisan way, I've spoken to Republicans and Democrats and people who consider themselves independents, and anybody who's familiar with his work at the Water Reclamation District has nothing but praise for his professionalism and the way he conducts himself, and I think that's reflective of the way, you know, that the operation works over there and has allowed them to achieve what they have.
No, I don't think there's any question about it, and the fact is that they really are, you know, some government agencies, you wonder what it is they do.
Right, and you know, certainly when you look at it from a fiscal standpoint, you know, they've got the triple crown of AAA ratings on the bonds. Obviously, you know, these investment services scrutinize that very carefully because they're telling people how solid and reliable an organization is that they are seeking to invest money in. And when you've got that triple crown, which, as Terry said, is unheard of throughout the United States, and you know, the fact that this is also an agency that has lowered its tax rate in these particular times when government is desperate for money, I think it's obviously signs of a very well-run and well-managed organization, and it starts at the top with the president.
There's no question. You know, sometimes, too, that when I deal with an agency, you can get a feel for the agency simply by how some of the people, you know, at the agency, like when you, sometimes you get a feel from the very beginning. I mean, sometimes, granted, just somebody answering the phone. But if you walk through an agency or you talk to several people from it, you get a feeling for competence pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, anybody who has any dealings with the agency and any sort of a context with you know, community meetings and such, they've got trained professional engineers who come out and really know their stuff and talk about these things and in terms of the technicalities, which I or a lot of other people don't understand. But you certainly see the results. As I said, you know, this fall has been a particularly rainy one, and you and I can both remember it wasn't that long ago that we'd be deathly afraid that we'd wake up one morning and find, you know, water seeping in through our basements. And with the particularly rainy season that we've had, it certainly shows, I think, that you know, the tunnel is working, and they're working on the reservoirs. I know there's a few more years before those are fully operational, but you know, progress has been made.
One of my favorite phrases that I had in the spring issue of Jewish Chicago with the gentleman whose picture I'm pointing to right now is, you know, taking off on an old thing, is there's going to be a new sheriff in this here town. And right now we're privileged to have the man who's definitely looking like he's going to be the new sheriff in Cook County. And we're talking to Tom Dart. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Avy. How you doing?
Real good, thank you. We've got Jim Nally here with me also today.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Morning, Tom. How you doing?
Great. Just, you know, like everybody else, out running all over the county and talking to a lot of people, and also looking forward to 15 days from now.
Yeah, it only is 15. So what are you going from? I imagine you are going from place to place today, quite literally.
Yeah, you know, I started off. I did Fox TV this morning at 8, and then I had to go out to Schaumburg, and I'm just leaving there, and I'm going to a church service now out in the Summit area.
Wow. So I imagine you're going to be all over town.
Yeah. I mean, I got up to Niles after that, and then I'm trying to remember. I've got a fundraiser, and then I think the Hellenic Voters. I'm going to an event for them tonight as well. So it's going to be a long night, but you know, it's you know, the home stretch here, so you sort of expect that much.
Let's talk real quick about you know, let's look at your qualifications. You are uniquely qualified in many ways to be sheriff, more so than almost anybody on the ballot for a position that they've never been in before.
Yeah, you know, Avy, I appreciate you saying that. It's one of those things where, you know, you know, my background is varied in some respects, and I think it lends itself to this office much more so than you would imagine, because having been a former prosecutor, I've prosecuted criminals. I've conducted investigations in the state's attorney's office. I was then on the legislature where I authored and passed numerous laws, criminal laws, and I was chairman of our prisons while I was down there, and now chief of staff for the last 3 years in the sheriff's office. It's a pretty varied experience. It's frankly something you really need for that office.
Well, Tom, I know you've been working very hard and spending a lot of time particularly looking at the jail. And I noticed in this morning's paper that the American Corrections Association has given the jail a 98% approval rating.
Yeah, you know, Jim, we were real excited about it. It's an annual evaluation. It's the highest we've ever gotten. And we were particularly excited because of all the energy and time we put in. We've really turned some corners over there at the jail, and it's been honestly through the hard work of a lot of people. And frankly, I mean, I moved my office out there to the jail back in February to have a more hands-on presence there. But it's mostly the people around me that are accomplishing all these things and do a tremendous job.
And so coming into Election Day, is there so basically just hard work and letting people know your record. Is there anything you really feel like you have to pick up on, or is there anything unexpected you feel coming into the job that you're going to have to deal with? Or
no, I mean, I think because of the experience I've had to date, it's all pretty much in front of me. And to say I'm going to hit the ground running is an understatement. I've been running large parts of it already. So I mean, it's not going to be much of a change in my day-to-day business. So I'm excited. I am excited, though, just to get the election behind me, so I'll have the full authority to get a lot of things done there that I really want to do. And it's nothing terribly unexpected right now.
Well, at this point, much as I like to talk to you longer, I'm getting flash that we have the Secretary of State on the line right now. And
I get trumped by him. He's statewide. I'm only countywide. So you tell Jesse I said hello. But Avy, thank you for letting me on the show again. You have a remarkable show. I enjoy being on there. And Jim, take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Tom.
Thank you very much, and good luck. And we'd like to have you on once you're sheriff also.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. And I know that the Secretary of State is going from meeting to meeting. So, Secretary of State White, are you there?
I'm here. You had a wonderful person on a moment ago.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. I know that you're a fan. You like quality people. First of all, I want to tell everybody what a pleasure and privilege it is to have the Honorable Secretary of State Jesse White on the phone, and we thank you so much for calling. That's number one. I can't be. Your accomplishments throughout the years are just legendary. I mean, you're the one elected official that really there's no controversy about you. Everybody just plain likes you. And I want to give you all the credit in the world. It's just terrific. Between the tumblers and between the job you've done, the modernizations, that's what we should talk about because it's near election time. There are so many wonderful modernizations you put into the office. It's unbelievable.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll be glad to be on board. Tom Dart's a good friend of mine, and I just want to applaud him and thank you for a job well done, and I'm just really glad to see him in that position. When I came on board as the Secretary of State, I committed myself then to running the office like it is a business, restoring some integrity to it, and putting it in a posture by which the people could be proud. And I brought on a fellow by the name of Jim Burns, former U.S. Attorney from the Northern District of Illinois, who is my Inspector General. And we went to the Illinois General Assembly to have him confirm so that every Inspector General who will serve with the Secretary of State's office will have to be confirmed by the Senate to make sure that the people know that he is truly their guy in the office of the Secretary of State. We are proud of the fact, too, that we have a program called Pick a Plate, where right now you can go online, www.sabadriveillinois.com, and you can select the license plate of your choice. And we're glad that that program is up and running. Next year, we'll have a program that will be alive and well, too, called the Kiosk Machine. And within about a 3-minute period of time while you're out shopping in the mall, in the supermarket, or in the bank, you can get your sticker for your license plate. Right now, we have a program called the ERT, Electronic Transfer of Title, which means that when you go to a dealership, buy an automobile, all the information that the Secretary of State's office will need will be transmitted electronically to the Secretary of State's office, and you'll be able to drive out of the dealership with license plates on your car. Right now, we're hard at work with a new program called the GDL, the Graduated Driver's License Program, where we're requiring parents to spend 50 hours behind the wheel with their young people, and of the 50 hours, 10 of those hours will be done at night. We're proud of the fact that we've held some hearings across the state of Illinois trying to obtain information as to how we can keep our young people safe while driving. In a county called Tazewell County, which is outside of Peoria, Illinois, within the past 15 months, 15 of our 16-year-olds have died. And across this country of ours, 1,000 young people die each year while driving an automobile. and between the ages of 16 and 17, 7,000 young people died. So it's important for us to make sure that we put these young people in a posture by which they can be a responsible person while driving, and we believe that more education and more experience, we're going to get a better driver.
I think that's absolutely terrific. I know that this morning you're going from church to church on the campaign trail. I would like to thank very much Dave Drucker, who's one of the really fine people in public relations, for helping us out. I do understand right now that, by the way, and we want to thank you for your help with this too, that Alderman Stroger is also on the line, and we're going to be pleased to hear from him. I want to wish you all the luck. What's your ballot number, Mr. Secretary of State?
Number 11.
Number 11 sounds lucky, and you know what? By punching 11, pushing 11, marking 11, however it is this year, I think it'll be a lucky and a good thing for the entire state of Illinois. And I want to urge all of you, and thank you so much for calling, and good luck on the campaign trail.
And give my best to Todd Stroger. He's a great man.
Very good. We sure will. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary of State.
Thank you, Avy.
Thank you. There was Jesse White, and you know what? We're going right from the frying pan into the fire. It is a pleasure and privilege to have the Democratic candidate for president of the Cook County Board, the Alderman of the 8th Ward, Todd Stroger. Alderman Stroger, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm here with co-host Jim Nally. We do appreciate your time. What would you like to tell us about the election? What would you let people know why they should be voting for you Tuesday, November 7th?
Sure. This election is a very important one. I think we have a distinct difference between myself and my opponent. I'm someone who's had 15 years experience as a government official, 9 in the state legislature, and 5 as a city councilman. And as my outside activities, I've been an investment banker 7 years who dealt with debt for municipalities, school districts, trying to help them solve their problems when it comes to building roads, schools. And right off the bat, you can tell that my Republican opponent has a different philosophy than my Democratic values. I worked for people through my life, equal pay for women, worked on Safe Neighborhood Act, and I have a true record that I can run on. And my opponent has been talking about what he's done in the county board, and I was just in a meeting with him where he stated he had 25 amendments for the budget, he got only 1 vote, and that was his vote. So I think that shows that he hasn't had the support on that county board, even with his Republican ally. While I've been able to go to Springfield, work with people, get things passed, legislation that meant a lot to a lot of people, and it shows the difference in our style. I know how to work with people, be a good manager. I realize that the county government needs some help. It's an old model. We need to really modernize it, bring in some new technology and automation. We have to streamline some of the departments, and I want to work with the other elected officials so we can make sure that we get this budget where it needs to be, where the county can do its core services without trying to get by and suffer without enough revenue.
Very good. And so basically there's 15 days to go. Is there any special strategy you're using for the campaign right now, or anything in particular you're looking to do to make sure that you get the vote out and people support you?
Well, this race is a little different from all the other ones because I've only been running for a little more than 7 weeks. So I haven't had the opportunity to really lay out what I was going to do, who I was, for a 12-month period or so. So we are trying to make sure that we stay on TV, and we are going to do that. We're on TV already. And once people find out the difference between Todd Stroger and opponents, they will support me. And it's all about making sure that people know who we are.
Alderman, this is Jim Nally. I'd like to first congratulate you on receiving this morning the endorsement of the Chicago Sun-Times.
Thank you.
And I'd be curious, after the election, what would be the priority for you? What would be the first thing you'd like to do upon taking office?
Well, the first priority is to write out 4 missions for every office. We want every office to do exactly what the Illinois statute says they should do. So we will write out what their 4 mission is, and then as we approach the budget, we would have them do line by line what they want to do with their department, and then we'll see if it fits the core mission, and if it does, then we'll put that in the budget. Because the biggest problem we have right now is making sure that our revenue will be able to cover the sources that the county is supposed to actually support people.
Well, Alderman Stroger, we want to wish you a lot of luck. We want to thank you so much for calling in. What is your ballot number in the coming election?
Number 35.
Number 35. For people who want to support Alderman Todd Stroger, ballot 35. As a matter of fact, we have. I want to thank, by the way, I want you to hear that there were so many people that were instrumental in trying to get you on the show. That I'm getting more calls from your supporters than I've gotten from anybody. I've gotten calls from the person who's going to be our next guest, Commissioner Suffredin, as well as Secretary Jesse White. We had on just beforehand. The D'Amico family and Jim D'Amico in particular have been flooding me with phone calls trying to make sure that you got on the show. And I know you have a lot of well-wishers. And like Jim, I want to congratulate you on the endorsement in the Sun-Times. And good luck on the election trail.
I appreciate it. I have a lot of great supporters, and I'd like to thank them, too.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
And that was Alderman Todd Stroger. A pleasure to have him. And this is an action-packed show. And unfortunately, we've been making my own commissioner, one of my favorite people, wait. And he had to call back, and I'm so sorry, Larry. I really apologize to you, but we right now have on the line, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer, the commissioner of the 13th District, the best county commissioner we've had in my lifetime, Commissioner Larry Suffredin. How are you today?
I'm great, Avy. How are you and Jim?
Real good, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you very much for your help in getting us Alderman Stroger just now. And regards also from Secretary of State White.
I was able to hear Jesse White and to hear Todd's comments, and I agree with both of them.
Okay, and well, let's talk about you because you know what, even though you may not have an opponent this time, and I wonder if Jim Nally also was responsible for that. You never know. The fact is that you know you've really been championing some stuff that we're not used to having an active person in our district. Actually advocating things and trying to do something in our district. I know health care is one of your biggest things, and you've been fighting to get a health care situation in our neighborhood?
Absolutely, and I've talked with Alderman Stroger, and I think it'll be a priority for him to make sure that the Rogers Park community is covered.
No, I think that'll be terrific. So what do you do when you're unopposed like this? I mean, well, first of all, you've got Jewish Chicago's endorsement. That's not a problem. Oh, and by the way, I did get that, you know, we'll talk, but I did get stuff from your staff. Thank you very much.
Well, and Avy, right now I'm outside Ebenezer Church. Alderman Stroger has just arrived. I'm going to take him to 4 or 5 churches in Evanston this morning.
Oh, well, I want to wish you luck. And what is your ballot number?
You know, Avy, when you're unopposed, you don't know your number. my number is like the Cubs' magic number, 162.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Let's put it this way. It really is 162 your ballot number?
No, I have no idea. I'm kidding.
No, I hear you. Well, you know what?
We can do it the old-fashioned way. We'll find you by name rather than number.
Right.
Yeah, and pick up. People should pick up Jewish Chicago, where, of course, you'd be endorsed even if you had opposition.
Well, and Avy, I hope that your listeners will realize that this war that the Republican administration in Washington has got us in is causing all kind of problems at the local level, and that I think this is going to be a great Democratic year because the country is fed up with all of what's going on in Washington.
Well, I want to thank you very much. I know you're outside of church right now, and I'll be polite and let you go, and we look forward to talking to you. I might even see Election Day at one of the parties.
I hope so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Larry Suffredin. He's running unopposed. My county commissioner, 13th District. We want to thank him very much. And once again, frying pan to the fire, it is a pleasure and privilege to introduce all of you to the Republican candidate for president of the Cook County Board. He's a commissioner himself for the last 4 years in the Cicero-Berwyn Southwest area. We're talking to Tony Pera. How are you today?
Good morning, Avy. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
First of all, it's my pleasure. I'm here with co-host Jim Nally. And so this has got to be a busy day for you. You're a hard campaigner, I'll give you that.
Oh, yeah. We put in 16 to 18 hours a day every day, as we have for the last 18 months that we've been campaigning all across Cook County.
And what kind of focus? What's your focus? You know, what are you trying to hammer home in the last 14, 15 days before the election?
Well, Avy, our focus is smaller government, lower taxes, and the elimination of corruption in Cook County.
We have had a transfer of power here from father to son, and I was just listening to Commissioner Suffredin, who is endorsing Todd Stroger, which I think is rather interesting considering his painting himself as a reform candidate. Todd Stroger was picked to be the protector of the status quo. We have 2 federal grand juries impaneled right now investigating various facets of county government. We have become a national embarrassment because of the monarchical transfer of power from father to son without respecting democratic principles. And the second person who came in, the person who came in second place, Forrest Claypool, wasn't even considered. Congressman Danny Davis wasn't considered. They picked the least qualified candidate, Todd Stroger, just because his name is Stroger, to replace his father here. And as a result, have caused the county of Cook to be a national embarrassment because of the manner that was handled. We have corruption that's rampant here. We have a system, health service system that doesn't provide services to the poor members of our society because of money that's being stolen through various scams, overtime fraud, insider deals, and all of these were there during Todd Stroger's father's administration, and Todd Stroger was picked to protect the status quo. If people want reform in Cook County government, if they want better government, smaller government, lower taxes, the elimination of corruption, if they want to continue the reforms that Forrest Claypool and I have worked on for the last 4 years, as we have stopped $400 million in new taxes from being enacted by John Stroger, they need to vote for Tony Peraica.
And I think you're going to find a lot of people, it's obvious to me that you're really causing, to me this is the single most exciting race, and I think you're the one causing the buzz here.
Thank you very much. We're working very hard, and the voters are responding indeed, because when you consider that we're in a county of Cook, which is being referred to nationally now as Crook County, where we have 65% of the electorate identified in themselves as Democrats or leaning Democratic, and only 25% is leaning Republican. We are leading in the polls by 8 points, 48% for Peraica, 40% for Stroger. We're still 12% undecided. We need to make sure that the people who are still undecided understand what's at stake here. What's at stake is our financial well-being in Cook County and restoration of dignity and respect for the second largest county in the country.
I was watching you on Chicago Week in Review, and it was interesting to me. It seems that I didn't realize the president apparently does have quite a bit of power. There are a lot of things that the president can do with or without the rest of the board in terms of an executive manner to trim down the county. Would you like to elaborate just a little bit, or?
Yes, the county board president has control over approximately 2,500 jobs, which are considered non-Shackman jobs. They're managerial or policy-making positions, and I would move to eliminate a lot of those positions because they are filled with patronage hacks who are put in there without proper qualifications just because they happen to come from some politically protected group. And what we need to do is eliminate these high-paying jobs like Daryl Nichols, who's making $114,000 on administrative leave to walk his dog, and take that money and hire more nurses, doctors, physicians, pharmacists, so that we can provide a better health care system for those who are poorest among us who have no place else to turn for medical care.
I think that sounds good. I mean, I as you know, I do like what you're saying, and I got to give you a lot of credit. You're really, you know what you're talking about, and you're working hard at it.
Thank you very much, Ari. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your kind comments. This is truly a historic time in Cook County to have a political revolution whereby the elected political classes can be replaced by someone who cares about the poorest members of our community, who's willing to make the necessary changes that would restore dignity and good financial stewardship of public funds. You know, we are public servants, after all, and are there to serve the public, not to serve some political interests who are only concerned about protecting their political base. The people of Cook County need to realize what's at stake, come to the polls in large numbers on November 7th, and vote for reform, vote to continue what Forrest Claypool has tried to do in the primary. We have a chance to have a second bite of the apple here, and we need to make sure that the voters come out and vote for Tony Peraica. My punch number is 36.
36. That's, by the way, in Jewish life, that's 18 is the number for life, so 36 is 2 times life.
I love it.
So that's an appropriate number. So ballot number 36 come Election Day. I know you've got a lot of things on your schedule. I'm really grateful, and I thank you so much. for having the opportunity to call us.
Thank you, Avy. We'll be at the Croatian Cultural Center. We have a big rally over there. About 500 people are expected at Devon in California at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we're going to be up in Evanston at 6 p.m., where we're going to be at a new Trier Northfield Evanston Township dinner. It's going to be at the Elgowers on Riverfront, 2855 Milwaukee Avenue in Northbrook. So I invite all your listeners to come and join us at either one of those two stops.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if I was in the neighborhood, I'm in Greektown right now doing the show with Jim. I'd be up at the Croatian Cultural Center, which, as you know, is just a few blocks from my house. I want to wish you a lot of luck come Election Day, and good luck in your appearances, and, good luck, period.
Thank you very much, Avy. God bless, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, and you got it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. That was Commissioner Tony Peraica, and no, it wasn't Jim Nally just now. That was nonstop. What was it? We were just
going one to the other.
35, 40 minutes. That was pretty good. I really like Tony Peraica, I got to tell you. He's been the person to impress me the most. I feel sympathy for Stroger. I don't think Stroger is his father necessarily either. I don't want to paint him as being horrible or anything. But I'm sort of really the seriousness that Peraica has shown in his campaigning, and in the feeling I got when I interviewed him the first time is that he's just plain dead serious about doing a good job, and he's driven.
Well, and I think if you identified something, Todd Stroger isn't his father, and I think that's giving him an opportunity to get his message out as to what he would do differently. And I think that's pretty interesting because, when his father obviously has been an icon of politics and government in Cook County for a generation or more, he has indicated, he is of a different generation. He's got some other ideas. I think the interplay of ideas here is fascinating, and the fact that despite the fact that we've seen it before where people have succeeded a father or a family member in an office, everybody is molded by the times they grow up in and the way they are raised, and the factors that come into every person's life are different because times change. And I think it's a very interesting time we have here in Cook County because there is going to be a change one way or the other in the way government is conducted, just because you're going to have this generational thing happening.
Yeah, I don't think he would run things exactly like his father either. It's interesting because when I hear him talked about, a lot of the other reporters feel that, he's a really nice guy. People generally like him. But, he's had trouble, grabbing the bit a little bit.
I think if having met him a few times, he is kind of a thoughtful, more soft-spoken person, and sometimes that comes off in a media sense where they're looking for a soundbite right away, where he's not necessarily giving them that 2 or 3 word response that will be flashed on the news.
Well, as you know, I never look for sound bites on the show. I mean, as a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I wanted him to talk longer, and I like to give people their own platforms.
That's why a show like this is so good because. A lot of, we were talking before the show, a lot of what people see now in terms of any political discourse is a 30-second commercial that is packaged and may or may not truly reflect what the candidate is saying, or in many ways these attack ads.
I almost assume that the ads people see on TV do not reflect any truth whatsoever.
and that's why something like this is so important, because if people are taking the time this morning to watch a program like this, where you get beyond just the soundbite, you get beyond the 30 seconds of attack ad that has been done by some ad agency somewhere, and you talk to the person themselves, you're going to get a chance to evaluate who that person is and how they really come off. And we have dealings with people in our own lives every day where we evaluate people and say that person's trustworthy and I believe in what he or she says. And this is an opportunity, a program like this, for those who are watching, to get more than just the soundbite, more than just that little blurb that is been put together by someone, and people can speak for themselves on this program and lay out where they stand.
And the fact is that too, in terms of, for those of you who haven't been part of a campaign, which Jim and I both have been parts of campaigns, those sound bites, sometimes the candidate sees them and wants to cringe. Okay, and they're being told, it's like, no, this is what works. And it's a shame, but it is. It's like I watch the nonsense on television, of course, outside of myself on CAN TV, and especially when Jim Nally's on, then it has to be watched. Oh, and by the way, ntnm.org for our regular show, ntnm.org. Sonny, shame on you for not flashing that. By the way, our entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, is behind there. He's not our entire technical crew today. I also want to thank Keith McDonald. our director, and I would have thanked you guys up front, but the calls have been coming in nonstop. So Keith McDonald, Sonny Hersh, you guys are handling everything today. Thanks so much. But the you know, when it comes down to what candidates are saying, it's just bothersome that, you know, one guy's saying, like, this one is the most horrible. You know, it's true, maybe this one did have that attached rider to a bill that basically said that the most horrible person in the history of civilization and all that. But that was just a rider to a bill. There's like there could be 25 different parts of a bill.
Well, as you point out, Avi, you and I have been, you know, operating in this area for some time with politics and government. But, you know, I have come to decide, for myself at least, I'm getting really tired of the negative attacks. And when I hear a candidate telling me how bad his or her opponent is and why they shouldn't be elected, they're not telling me why they should be elected. And anybody who is elected to office is going to have to do positive, affirmative things. You can run a campaign negatively, and you can attack your opponent and say why they're terrible and why they shouldn't be holding a particular office. But if you're not telling people the positive things and the programs that you want to put in, because if you do win that office, you can't run 4 years of an office of just knocking other people or knocking the opposition. You've got to come in and do the things that, you know, you want to get accomplished in terms of your programs. And the discourse that we have in the last several years politically has really gotten away from that, and it's more about trying to paint your opponent as a bad person or incompetent or you know, immoral, and it hasn't really been about what I'm going to do when I get into office. So I tend to look more now at candidates who take the high road in terms of telling me what they want to accomplish.
There is such a candidate in the election?
There are, and a show like this gives them an opportunity to talk about that.
There aren't. Yeah, I know. I appreciate when they actually do, but you know, when I watch the commercials, it's like first of all, I only watch the commercials in large part because I got to talk about them on the air a little bit. The fact is, after we finish filming all the shows, I try to tape programs anyway if I'm going to watch them, because there's almost 20 minutes of commercials in an hour show. I'd rather have the extra 20 minutes to myself rather than watch the commercials, but I'm not going to want to watch any of them. I don't want to see, I like the Blagojevich stuff with Topinka. You know, they what's he thinking? What's she thinking? What's, you know, first of all, what am I thinking? What does anybody think? What is anybody thinking that this should work for people? But it does. See, that's the disturbing part. People see this stuff. They're not thinking, you know, they're busy, you know, on the cell phone. They're trying to make sure, you know, the housewife's trying to make sure that her kids, you know, are doing their homework or whatever they're doing. You know, trying to get the house clean, you know, worrying about work the next morning and all the rest of it. It sees the commercial and, okay. And, you know, people aren't thinking, they get grabbed by it.
Well, and if there's one thing I think we can impart to the people who are watching today is, you know, try to look for the substance of what somebody is saying. Get away from, you know, the easy part of these attack ads and, you know, painting the other person as being not competent to do the job. Find out what that person is saying about themselves and what they would do if they were going to be elected to the office that they're seeking. That's what people should be focusing on, because the attack ads are going to melt away, you know, election day. And somebody is going to get elected to an office. And then, for better or worse, that's the person that's going to be there for 2 years or 4 years or 6 years.
That's pretty much true. And as a matter of fact, people are going to have to live with that. And, you know, another thing, too, is that even if you look at the presidency, which is on a different level, which isn't up this year, and we don't even have a senatorial race this year, when you talk about what's going on in the economy today, I mean, it's not necessarily what a person does today that affects the economy today. It might affect the economy 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. Sometimes what happens in the beginning of somebody's administration is a direct result of the previous president. So you never really know exactly what's going to go on along those lines.
Well, that's why it's so important to pay attention to people in terms of what they want to do going forward. If I'm elected, I'm going to do this and this and this. You may agree with them, you may not agree with them, but in either context, that's what's important, because that's what's going to affect you and I and everybody else a year from now, 3 years from now.
Yeah, so when you see the negative ads, it's like, enough, 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 enough. More than enough on the negative ads in the governor's race. Which, speaking of negativity, you know, the governor's race to me is unbelievable. We did have some invitations out, by the way, to some people that didn't actually make it. But we're not going to worry about that. We worry about who we are, who we have here, and all the rest of it. and we're about to go into a period where we're going to sync the last 9 minutes of the show we're doing now, which is going to happen in a few seconds, together with what we've got going on the last TV show, regular TV show for the Northtown News Magazine, which is Thursday 7:30, Friday 2:30 on Channel 19. I want to thank, first of all, thanks, Keith. Got it. And from here on in, this is the last part of the election show for those of you who are watching Thursday 7:30 on Channel 19 or 8 o'clock on Channel 6 or on ECMC TV or on Monday at 6 o'clock before the election in 35 North and Northwest suburbs. I'm here with co-host Jim Nally. Thank you so much for being here, Jim. Jim, of course, is the leading election lawyer in the state of Illinois. For those of you who are just joining us for the final segment of our live show, and this is live Sunday, October 22nd, 9 o'clock in the morning at CAN TV. My entire technical staff, usually Sonny Hersh, is joined by Keith McDonald, who's the real expert down here at the studio, and thanks so much for all your help, guys. We were just talking about the negativity in campaigning, and we're going to do a general recap. And I think let's talk about the governor's race a little bit. Because speaking of negativity, I mean, Blagojevich is somebody, and this is something that I don't think the average person on the street understands, is that the Democratic politicians themselves absolutely loathe. I mean, a high percentage of them can't stand the guy. Now, some of them, and then you got a perfect situation for Judy Bar-Topinka. 51% of the people in the Tribune said, it's like, we don't really care for the governor. Okay, now Topinka really hasn't run that great a race herself. And even though she's reasonably competent, I don't know that she's super great by any means. You know, she's okay. Still in all, you've got more and more people wishing, like, I wish there was somebody else. But then the Green Party's not going to get you anywhere, and frankly, I'm not a big Nader fan when it comes to politics.
Well, the one thing is somebody is going to win the race, and that's true of every race that is on the ballot this time. So the worst thing a person can do is stay home, because whether you come out and vote or you don't come out and vote, there's going to be somebody who's going to end up the winner and holding that office for the next 2, 4, or 6 years, depending on the term. So opting out is really a cop-out. You have to really then take the next step and say, I want to educate myself about these candidates, get beyond the negativity, get beyond the sound bites and the prepackaged ads. Where do they really stand? There are a lot of, the newspapers are an excellent source of information. All the papers, from the local papers up to the regional papers, do a very good job of profiling candidates, and Jewish Chicago is absolutely included in there.
Well, first of all, thank you. And you can catch Jewish Chicago. This is actually the primary issue, but, the Jewish Chicago thing. It'll be this size on your newsstand. It's free. And it'll be out later this week if you're watching the live show, or if you're watching this on, later, it's like on your newsstand. Get it now, please, and thanks for the plug, Jim. I appreciate that. Information from newspapers is very important.
Because,
no question about
newspapers can go into a little more detail than the electronic media. And you can really, every one of the papers will run very extensive positions from all the candidates. So you're getting more than the soundbite, and they'll propose the issues of the day to them, and the candidates will have a chance to address each and every issue and say, this is what I would do. That's what people should be concentrating on, because whoever wins this, you can't take the perspective as I don't like either candidate, so I'm doing nothing. One of those people is going to be holding that office, whatever it is, and the best possible thing you can do is get out there, read them on the issues, find out what they say they will affirmatively do if they're elected, and then make your choice based on that.
And I think that's really important, But by the way, there's not to mention, do your homework, too, for the judicial races. And I don't want to talk about that too long, because we only have about 4 minutes left and change. But, it's really important to look at these bar recommendation ratings and all the rest of it. And in terms of Topinka, Blagojevich and Peraica and Stroger, I think it's really important to do your homework. I mean, I know there's no question about that I'm going to, I've just been so disappointed with Blagojevich myself that I know I'm definitely a Topinka person, and I think I've already indicated that, I like Tony Pera, although I do like Stroger. I don't think he's a horrible person by any means. I think about New Direction and all that, not to mention Terry O'Brien is important to me, and Larry Suffredin, Jesse White, Tom Dart, the people we had on today. There's other people too. I'm not going to get into the treasurer's race. I was kind of upset myself at Democratic candidate Giannoulias because I got stiffed on TV. That makes it personal, and I don't want to necessarily say anything here on the air. And by the way, what I say here too doesn't necessarily reflect Jewish Chicago. Jewish Chicago is a separate entity than this show, even though like I'm obviously Jewish and all that. Okay, but I have to use a different criteria for what's good for the Jewish community. And, when Jewish Chicago comes out, I'll definitely be saying things about Blagojevich I did not bring up on this show because there's Jewish issues involved here that are very important, but that doesn't apply to this show. So I want people to understand that. But doing your homework is most important. And you can vote, as Jim tells us, you can vote early. Now, is there anything people have to worry about the voting machines?
God willing, no. After what happened in March, I know the election authority has been putting a lot of time into the mechanics of that to try to make sure that there aren't the follow-ups that we saw in March. And they better get it right because obviously in a general election there's going to be a lot more people voting. But there's early voting going on right now, and I would encourage as many people as can do it, get out there and do the early vote. You've got your voting out of the way. You don't have to worry about the weather being bad that day or transportation or you get stuck late at work or whatever. You can go, the county and the city both have numerous sites where you can go vote. In the city of Chicago, there are 25 sites spread throughout the city. Cook County is the same thing. All the regional courthouses will have early voting, as well as many village halls. You can check with the Cook County Clerk's office to determine the closest place for you to go. But all you need to go is, you don't have to go to a particular voting area that's, say, within your ward or within your township. You can vote anywhere if you're in suburban Cook, anywhere in the suburban Cook County, or the same in the city of Chicago. If you work in the north side, you can vote on the south side. And there would be a real plus in terms of getting the voting done for you. You know your vote is cast, it's in, there aren't any problems. It takes some of the pressure off then for Election Day because these votes then they won't be tallied until Election Day, but they've already been cast. And there has been a change in the law from March, whereas these votes now will all be centrally counted by the election authority, the Board of Elections, or the clerk. So that should take some of the confusion away from what people saw on Election Day in March.
Yeah, it was confusing, to put it mildly, and for weeks afterwards I'm busy trying to add the totals on the web from the county separately and the city separately to figure out how Terry O'Brien's doing and some of the other people in water reclamation, which was still up in the air, not to mention some of the judicial stuff. So I hope it's more straightened out. I want to thank very much all of our call-in guests today in order of calling in. President Terry O'Brien of the Water Reclamation District, Tom Dart, the Sheriff of Cook County, or will be the Sheriff of Cook County, Jesse White, the Secretary of State, Larry Suffredin, Commissioner of the 13th District, Tony Pera, the Republican candidate for Commissioner. I'm not doing this exactly in order, guys. Sorry. Tony Peraica, the Republican candidate for President of the County Board, as well as Todd Stroger, the Democratic candidate. I want to thank my co-host Jim Nally. I'm Avy Meyers. NTNM.org. Jewish Chicago will be on the newsstands anytime real soon, guys, so look for it. I want to thank my entire technical staff, Sonny Hersh and Keith McDonald. Thank you so much for your expert help. Hey, I'll give you the last words of wisdom.
Well, just make sure you get out and vote. And this time you can vote early. You can't vote often, but you can vote early.
Yeah, I love that early and often thing. That's a great Chicago tradition and all that. But do your homework, too. I mean, don't just watch. Forget those commercials are lousy. Don't judge yourself based on the commercials. That's really a bad idea. You know, all they're going to do is a matter of fact, sometimes, yeah, like what Jim said, when somebody starts out with those negative commercials, and I see the other one respond in kind, I think that's what disappointed me the most about Topinka. You know, even though I'm going to probably still I'm going to definitely wind up voting for her, I wish she hadn't sunk to Blagojevich's level. I mean, sometimes I want to say, that's the only time I want to say what she thinks. She didn't need it, not at all. And anyway, Jim, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me again. I'll be calling you.
Okay, yeah, we'll be counting us out, so that's it.